To the exhibition. Susan and John Horstman are here, and for the estates of Vivian Brown and of Betty William Taylor and Benny Andrews, and of course for all of the artists that are here with us today and that are still making work and are still engaged and alive, and it's just kind of wonderful, and I'm so happy that this has all come to pass. So I won't go into deep detail on the thank yous, just to say thank you. And then the other thing that I wanted to do is just to talk a little bit about what today's conversations can do. I offered a couple of epigraphs for the exhibition when I was talking last night. One was from Benny Andrews quoting Brooks Bendy about the Rebuttal show, and the Rebuttal show offering a handle for art historians to grasp. It was a line that we found, not hidden exactly, but in a letter in the archives of the Archives of American Art in the Reginald Gammon papers, and it gave us a way to focus the exhibition. That if Benny Andrews is going to say to us, here is a handle to grasp, we will grasp that handle. And it allowed us not only to grasp the handle, but to unravel a number of things, to follow the Rebuttal exhibition in multiple directions, both the specific negotiations back and forth between the Black Emergency Cultural Coalition and the Whitney Museum in 1969 and 1970 and 1971, but also the ways in which the BECC, the Black Emergency Cultural Coalition, really was a coalition, that it brought together downtown artists and Harlem-based artists. In the Rebuttal, it is a national exhibition. There were artists, most of them were from New York, but Reginald Gammon submitted artwork from Michigan. It was broadly based, and it was based stylistically from geometric abstractions of artists like Haywood Bill Rivers and Frank Wimberly that we were able to borrow downstairs to Afrocentric, Yoruban-inspired, or to the kind of scathing social realism of Cliff Joseph and Benny Andrews. It marked a coalition of artists, a banding or joining together for political reason, which I think might be something that younger artists who are in our current political situation, might find models in, or ways of addressing or working. The other epigraph I used last night was from Edmund Barry Gaither, whose image you saw on the screen as part of the panel. He was the moderator of the panel. And that was the charge, basically, to white identified institutions, to mainstream institutions, of their role and responsibility to do the research, do the history, and support the work of African American artists. The creation and development of Afro-American or the Black museums does not relieve major American white art institutions from the responsibility to exhibit and collect the art of Afro-American artists, nor of the duty to integrate them into general art scholarship. Afro-American museums do not negate or deny the need for galleries, other museums, and college and university art programs to contribute to the educational and commercial expansion of art by Afro-American artists. And that was in essence, the charge for this exhibition, the charge for the seminar that led to the exhibition, and the work that we need to be doing and that we want to be able to continue to do. And it's my hope that these conversations will be part of the seminar, will be part of the ongoing research into the work of the artists who are here, the work of the 47 artists in the Rebuttal exhibition, the work of a generation and generations of African American artists who have been overlooked by what one could call a general art history, and to see how and where that history can be desegregated. The institutions, the historical writing, the research, all of that work needs to be done. And it's for that reason that I am really happy that the exhibition happened, that this afternoon is happening. The first of the conversations that will take place will be about, again, that panel at the Art Students League. And I'm going to ask Richard Mayhew and Oakland Holmes Jr. and Dr. Lisa Farrington to come up to the stage. And know that their biographies are on the sheet that you came in with, but it's an exceptionally distinguished group. Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen. It is my honor to talk to you today. I'm just so delighted. We talked a little bit before about the film and all the work that went into it. And I'll start with you, Dr. Holmes. You talked about how the logistics and putting together the film as a young man, and also the passion for the importance of the subject matter, the problem that was being discussed, that surpassed any kind of reasonable paying for the films, essentially what was the problem. And it didn't matter because people who care about African American art, about making sure that that art reaches the public, making sure that the artists are supported, do it, as we all know, from love. From desire to make it happen, not unfortunately because we're going to make the big bucks. But I'd like to ask you to repeat a little bit of the story of the making of the film to the audience that we discussed a little bit ago. You can have this and I'll...
Oh, okay. I was in my late 20s. And I'll just tell you the story which says it all. Of course, the story I was going to tell you, it's happened many times to all of us. But I'm working on my master's, and my professor, so for some reason, I don't know, people let me help you to do what you want to do, and that's a blessing. And he sort of took me under his wing, learning to do research, these things that you need to do to acquire a master's degree. And one day, it was sunny, I'll never forget this day, and he asked me to help him carry one of his large canvases across the campus. It was a wonderful university. It was very receptive to various kinds. We were at Columbia, and he talked about accommodating art types and art people. Here, I feel very welcome at home. So Virginia Commonwealth was like that. It was, but this one professor, I thought I was on his side or he was on my side, and we could, earn that degree. And then halfway across the campus, he stopped and looked at me and said, "Don't take this personally, Opie." And the alarm bells went off in my medulla, God, or whatever you call it. It's like, okay, you're going to get it now, Opie. He says, "I think black people are inferior." And I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Well, they haven't produced any art. We don't, And I'm thinking, on the one hand, well, I'm majoring in art, and there must have been people before me. And on the other hand, we've been doing art for 12,000 years, 14,000 years. I mean, we were there when you were in Europe. Anyway, that lit a fire because he didn't say anything that I didn't know some people thought. And I said, and the voice comes to me and said, whose job is it then to document this? And it's your job to know. I had known about Jacob Lawrence. And so, like I said, I know the arrogance of youth. And I went to New York and tried to rent equipment and was surprised to run into financial barriers. And again, for some reason, people said, well, we want to help you. You know, what's your ceiling on your credit card? $300. $300. So, but they allowed me to take very expensive equipment out. Then people in the back, you know, there's sound men, there's light men, all these technical things. They gave me crash courses in the back while they were at work. How to thread the film through a professional projector. And then so I left with 200 pounds of equipment, $4,000 worth of money in 70s. Now all of the artists, except Richard, lived on the 7th floor. We're talking palms and eggs. And I've got this beautiful white still. But 200 pounds of equipment, I'm stumbling up and said, well, we did it. We did it. She backed me, and that's where the money came from. Her earnings as a teacher, their trust in me that I would pay it back. People taking me under the wing, Richard Mayhew, Romare Bearden. Oh my God, you can't get luckier than that. You know? And then there was a man whose name was John Carter. John Carter did the motion picture Martin Luther King story. Calvin Comes to Harlem, Goodbye Columbus. These kinds of movies. He had all kinds of awards. I visited his house. He had a bombed out lake that he made himself. People come to, you know, you see names when the movie rolls, and you will see John Carter. And he insisted that I use his studio over a summer. Can you get amazing? The Moviola was the oldest type of editing machine in 70 and 71. Then the computers came in, and that was called the Kim. Lo and behold, he's going to teach me. So I'm sitting out there like, and I edited this film. And let me know that this event was going to happen. A voice in my ear says, get your rear end down there. This is going to be nice. And that's the way the film was financed. And this determination, doggone it, no one will ever say that to me again without my whipping out something and saying, there it is, here, go look at it, go read it.
That's really wonderful. And it gets to the crux of what you said during the film, that this can't happen unless we do it ourselves. And I'd like to ask you to, because you said very little in the film, but it felt like a lot, to answer two questions possibly. Elaborate on how, because this is exactly what you did. Took the initiative, because you can't complain to others if you don't take care of your own. And then how do you feel about what progress, slow or fast, do you think we've made in that direction since then?
Now, this all started in Uncle Holmes and I were very close friends, and he mentioned what he wanted to do. At first it seemed very simplistic. After a while, I found how complicated this was, because it's where are we going to put this on? And then who's going to be involved with this? And so I was teaching at the Art Students League. So what he was talking about had to do a large auditorium of some sort. And then who's going to be involved with this? And since I had the friends of many of the artists in New York at the time, and I said, who would be that articulate enough to really be involved in presenting this? And so when I had the list of all the names of these artists and how much they would be willing to participate in this in the first place. And they said, well, who's Oakley Holmes? So I had to get involved with them and decide, in fact, this is a very enterprising young man that needs not actually support of us to do this. And what would take place on the basis of if this was ever had to take place. Now, who would be involved with? So I talked to Roman Bearden, Benny Andrews and many at the time. And they said, oh, it's a great idea, let's do it. And so then I started calling many of the other artists at the time. In fact, and at that time, it's not how many women were really recognized as being involved with the visual arts. So there was Vivian Taylor and Vivian Brown and Faith Ringo, and then several women. I said, we can put on a panel, and we'll get them together at this time. And to support Oakley Holmes. Oakley Holmes, oh, who's Oakley Holmes? And I said, well, he's a filmmaker, and he's working on his degrees at Columbia University. And I think that if this film maybe came together, it would. Now, you have to realize, this is the first time I've seen that film in many years, all right? Again, and seeing all the people that were involved, and how I had to encourage them to participate in this. So we went on the dark nights and discussing with many of these artists. And they seemed very pleased about the possibility to really participate in doing this. I remember I talked to Hal Woodruff. Hal Woodruff was like a mentor for me also, because he was a professor at NYU at the time, and was one of the first African-American to be a professor at any white university. And so I talked to him about it. He said, oh, that sounds ideal. And he made some suggestions of people that would probably participate. So I went down a list of people that were very close, and I asked them about what they would do. And they were raving about the idea. Let's do it. And again, Oakley Holmes.
Who was that?
Yeah, it was that. And so that came in the fact that he wanted to make a film of this. And then he said, well, where are we going to do this? So since I was at the Art Students League, there's this large auditorium there. I don't know how much you're familiar with the Art Students League. And I presented the idea. And at that time, how many activity like that was taking place at the Students' League? The Art Students' League was never prejudiced about anyone going to school there or anyone teaching there, which is very unusual. The Art Students' League is the oldest school in the United States in the arts. And only in the 60s, you realize that artists were teaching at universities. So the Art Students' League goes back to the early impressionists of American art, and everybody studied there. So all who teaches at the Art Students' League was all great top professionals in the country. And so when I presented that this situation would take place there, the director of the museum of the Art Students' League says, this sounds like a great idea. So it only pressured me more to go forth with this. And then Oakley Holmes kept coming up again. Who's Oakley Holmes? And they didn't realize how important this Oakley Holmes was going to be after this, right? So since everyone agreed to this, so it's a matter of timing. When would this take place? All that was hard to get each artist having this time period to come and do this. So that was a debate of the time, and working out schedulings and timing for Hal Woodruff and Norman Lewis, which we felt was pretty important to participate. And many of the women, how much we get them to participate, they questioned right away what would be our role in participating. I said, in this voice, the problems that's going on with women in the arts, and also your particular contribution. And he said, how many cameras and what would be set up here? They didn't realize, which is very unique and very special, which one you can't even imagine, that he had a 35 millimeter motion picture camera, which is one of the smallest cameras on the road, for him to photograph this historic event. And we never realized how historic historic as could be. Now, it has been forgotten. Now, this is in the 70s. How much, any of you ever aware that it had taken place, have ever seen this film? Probably not. But from now on, we're going to make sure that that film is a major contribution to the community and what taken place at that time.
Wonderful. I know we have some things here.
Yeah,
that I'd like to talk
well,
about.
it came up, and I anticipated that it would, because when I was the age of many of these students, you know, it wasn't, the chronology is not necessarily there, certainly not the, so I wrote down before leaving home, the ages in chronological order of the people who were there. And trying to be in my shoes, I'm still wet behind the ears. You know, like she said, people are, I'm not bothering with it, and hold their homes, you know. But all right, so I'm 29, and I have this lovely wife who said, okay, we'll invest everything in what you're doing. All right, that's me. Then Nigel Jackson, with the same spirit, 1 year older than I am.
Amazing.
He's 31. 31. We're both snots. We are. Kids. Now, we get the fake Ringo. She's 37. We get the Richard Mayhew. He was still a young man, 47. We get the Romare Bearden, who was not in the film, though. But he's 60, but he was very instrumental, as you said. He's 60 years of age. We get to Norman Lewis, who was there. He's 62. Charles Austin was 64. Hale Woodruff was 71.
Amazing.
So here you are, you're in awe of these guys. You know what they've done. You know their reputations. You look at their resumes, they are equal. And in some cases, beyond what I keep running into in those thick art books that you're required to read. I knew Ibram Lasso, Conrad Marcorelli. I talked to those people to learn how to become an artist. Here's the people, Dr. Selma Burke. She did the head on the dime. She has an earned doctorate and 2 others.
The president actually sat for her. Twice.
That's right.
FDR.
That's right. That's right. And then there's Norman Lewis. In 1956, Norman Lewis defeated both Picasso and Matisse in a competition. And it's documented in the movies. It just spilled it out that I feel like I'm just starting. And, you know, and this is just added to the impetus that I got upon entering graduate school. It's like, oh my God. So that. I just wanted to put that in. So,
yeah. But, you know, the feeling from the film is that there was this intense frustration with the way African-American artists were able to function in the larger scheme of the art community. And I'm very curious, because we were all watching you on the film. Who were you looking at? Who were you looking at in the audience? What did that audience look like as you were sitting there?
Well, the audience is a mixed audience that comes to the Art Students League, and any time you hear about a panel or something, the head part of New York City shows up. And you have the Carnegie Hall right down the street from there, so it has an environment which is very sensitive to aesthetic qualities in the arts. So you had a mixed audience there, those who come to the Art Students League as students or friends of those, and also how much this was broadcast to a larger community at the time. So that audience was filled with people from every background you can imagine. Right.
So maybe did you feel you were preaching to the choir, or did you?
No, there was no financial situation for them to come. It was just volunteer. They didn't have to pay.
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah. So, but I guess what I'd really like to hear from both of you is, how do you feel that the African American art community today, the artists in particular, the historians, are doing enough to bring African American art to the forefront in the way that obviously that panel desired at the time in 1971.
There's still a board in that area. And seeing this film, how much that, again, is out of the comment, talk to me like I do a person.
They look exactly the same.
And how much you feel that that has changed anything. The void is the fact that there seems to be some advancement in the African-American artists now in galleries which didn't exist at that time and shown in large exhibitions. But the progress of that and recognizing who they are and what they represent, because abstraction gets into the area here in terms of or African-American representing visual images of African-American people. And all that gets into the mix here, and also like what's going on with installation art and representing African-American art symbolism. So right now, in terms of recognizing African-American art, it gets lost in the maze of the art area, and also the communication of the media certainly does not emphasize that particular area at all. And there was always a problem with African art to pinpoint you're a black African artist or you're an artist. Everybody wanted to be recognized as an artist, not necessarily have to define a particular ethnicity. So this is still a dilemma that goes on right now. You're an artist. What kind of artist are you? Are you black artist? Are you Latino artist? Or are you Native American artist? Not just an artist. When we talk about white artists, they just say just artist. They don't say it's a white artist. So we still have this division situation. The fact that when you mention artist, well, he's a black artist. Or he's a Latino artist. All right? So this is still a problem that's going on in separatism. And the media has a lot to do with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at shows like the Rebuttal show then and the homage to it today. There are African American artists who don't like that idea even now, that, especially now. They don't want to be included in an all-black show. They don't want to be included in an all-black African-American art books, which I come across this writing these books, that there are some artists won't give permission to have their art reproduced because they don't want to be black. I think it's Adrian Piper retired, right, from being black, officially. Yeah, you ever go to her website? Yeah. So, stuff, it gets tiring after 30, 40, 50 years of this constant fighting and identifying and, self-identifying. But I think you're right. I'm not sure there's a solution. Although I guess we're inching towards something. But what, I'm not sure. What I'd like to ask you is, if you could give advice to young African-American artists and scholars today about how to improve the situation, what would that advice be? To do what you do?
I'm thinking it seriously.
Yeah.
I think, I'll say what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I was. The drive was to become an artist. I wanted to express myself. It was the look at me syndrome. You're an artist. And not being familiar, as I probably should have been, with the barriers, racial barriers. The sky was the limit. My key word, my daughter will tell you, is to aspire. Aspire. You don't ask, what blocks will I come across? You aspire, you go. You just get up and go. Don't sit down. Mm-hmm. I hate that. And that's where I came out of the chute like that. Ran into Richard Mays or what, but and the other artists responded the same way, in the meeting that breaks me. Because it was Richard who inspired me to branch this out worldwide and throughout time as well. I mean, you know about the Grimaldi Caves, you know about Altamar. Good. Well, when you mentioned Out Tomorrow,
Yes.
and Let's Go.
Knows about Lasco.
Let's Go and Out Tomorrow, but not the Grimaldi case.
Right.
And then there's, let me go on, Ghana, Molly, Songbird. There's New Year. I mean,
These are prehistoric cave paintings that
before you even get to
get
that.
overlooked because they're not in Europe.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then there was Henry Tanner, and there was Job. Just one Job, J-O-B, somebody was reading it and said Job. But, and then you come down through African American, I mean, I know a lot more about it. And I suspect that each of these people had the drive to express themselves.
Yeah.
And art lasts more than any other form. We don't know what the music of Let's Go and Out Tomorrow and Grimaldi sounded like. We darn sure know what the art looked like. And we have some suspicions about how the people feel doing it.
Yeah.
And today, Richard Mayo, I, Ron Bearden, Norman said to me, Norman said, if you don't feel it, if you don't have the emotion, if you're not ready to cry about something, feel something, then you have nothing to say. Now that didn't get on camera, you know, but that's, so it's about that. Now, what to say to these young people? I can only say what I know, and I'm repeating, and I'm looping back to the beginning of the answer to that question. Just doggone it, you feel it, let's go and do it, let's find a way. And I do believe you'll find people that will embrace you and help you get it done. I really do believe that.
As you did.
Yes, that's what yes, yes.
And Mr. Mayhew, same question for you. If you could advise young African American artists and scholars today, what to somehow find a way to bring this equity that we've been desiring for so long, bring it about, what would your advice be?
Well, it has to do with the study of the arts in the first place. And academia. I taught in academia all my life, all the universities across the country. And academia is never really the best place for one to become an artist. It's unfortunate. Because
Sorry.
because it wasn't until 1960 that artists taught at the university was art education and art history. There was no artists teaching at the universities. So only in 1960 when they started hiring artists to teach craft in the universities. Now, when you go to university, that's only, in some cases, the arts is an elective. It's not the main, and how much this becomes their main course to teach, study. There is a problem now in terms of understanding the whole sensibility of inventive creative consciousness, which you don't always get from academia. As I said, I taught that all my whole life. How I ended up there, I have no idea. Well, anyway, at the art academies, when I started out, I studied with all master artists in the United States at the time. You can't imagine that. Many of the prominent artists you know that became very famous, I studied with them. And that's where you really learn. And then I went to academia in Florence, Italy. And unless you're really involved with dealing with some kind of uniqueness and sensitivity of creativity, you can't get into the academy. And then how much you're involved with dealing with the sensitivity of the creative process. You have to learn every aspect of the media you're working with. And in universities, you don't learn all of that, unfortunately. It should be a special. Actually, this is part of the Salon artist development, which is part of the European system, which is now, and none of the universities and art schools are teaching it that way, except for one. Artist that established his own school now in Philadelphia. going back to the basis of just learning how to paint. But how much in academia they have time to do this in various courses that one has to study. And very difficult for them to really understand the process. Also, the knowledge that one learns there, I learned from prominent artists. I studied with Max Beckman, Hans Hoffman, and Edwin Dickinson, Reuben Tam, Kuni Unyoshi, and you have to learn everything in terms of basics as well as why are you doing this, who are you doing, what are you involved with, and how much that doesn't take place in academia also, unfortunately. So one comes out with a degree, master's degree, I'm an artist. It's not true. Maybe 10 years from now, you might be an artist.
Thank you so much. A little depressing, but we want honesty, we want the truth, and we love that you gave us your wisdom. So thank you, gentlemen, very much.
I don't feel I'm explaining that well.
You are.
Right.
But thank you so much.